This week on Jaywalking, just solo walking. So I got a lot of fun stuff. I talk about my shows with Joe Gatto. I talk about a favorite restaurant that I recommended to Joe. That's my absolute favorite. So stay tuned. You're going to get a little Zagat's guide to food in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. And, we're just talking life. We're talking education. We're talking me as a teacher now at the comedy schools versus what I was a teacher for public education for 21 years. And some pretty powerful stuff, some reflection I didn't see coming. It came out of my mouth. I was like, oh, my goodness. So I think you're going to love it. So tune in, walk your dog, mow your lawn, drive to work. I'll see you next time. All right, well, we have another week is upon us, and it's a solo episode. You're in luck. I know you're like, how can I get more Jay? And here I am. My wife would be so thrilled. She's just thrilled that I'm not home talking to her right now. So you are in for a treat today. We're talking. I got some cool things to share. If you watched last episode with Joel, which was super cool. I mean, this was a guy that I just met because my wife and I loved comedy, and he had an indoor club near us, and we were, comedy fiends. So when we were so excited to have a club for like literally 10 minutes from our doorstep, and to just, being a customer and a consumer to, going to the open mic during the pandemic as a guest and just saying, I think I could do this and I'd like to give it a go. So the fact that he created that space that, allowed my wife to have a date night, allowed me to, pursue this kind of dream I had, and then to go from that to doing it and to have him say so many complimentary things about it was really cool. So if you didn't catch it, make sure you're going back. It was actually that day we recorded it, I was also going to be opening for Joe Gatto from Impractical Jokers, which again was kind of like a really crazy full circle moment, because before I even started doing the open mic at Joel's during the pandemic, when, we weren't laughing, we used to have it on the TV nonstop. Like True TV was in the background, because the girls were like, 2 and 4. So like you could have it on and they were just laughing at the physical humor stuff and they weren't getting the innuendos. So it was like really cool. So to think that like that was the kind of thing I was watching right before I decided to start doing comedy, it was just cool. It was like, for me, what a dream, and to have it be at Joel's, like you can't write a better story than that. So it's just to imagine what's happened in just 5 short years, and to be like, oh, now it's 2 months after I decided to quit my job and, just try to pursue, whatever this is that I'm doing. We'll just call it life. How about we do that? And just like we talk about signs, it's like, man, I feel like anytime I had any kind of doubt, since this has happened, I've not had an iota of doubt, which is kind of cool, because I was always the Boy Scout that had to do everything according to plan, the way it was supposed to be done, and to break that and to kind of feel the freedom of that was, I don't know, it's pretty badass, to be honest. So I got to do 4 shows. It would have been 6 shows, but I had already had a commitment on Saturday to a gig in South Delaware, doing like a show with other kind of like teacher themed. Turns out no teachers came. It was a full show, but it was just the people in the area, which is cool. I kind of like that, because when I write comedy, I don't want, when I started doing the Bored Teachers Tour, I was so afraid that everybody's like, oh, he just does teacher stuff. And when I first started comedy, like I mentioned in previous episodes, I did it to not think about, I was trying to not think about being a teacher. I was praying the AI robots were ready right now, It's like, come on, Melania, let's pump it through faster. I'd love my wife to get a little more PTO, because like maybe that's it. Maybe the AI robots just are like the substitutes, because I know the substitutes that my kids, when I was away and the cat's away, the mice will play. They would always complain if there was like an old school sub that just like made them toe the line, because kids crave discipline. Let's be honest. I mean, I think Colin Powell, former Secretary of Defense, I believe, or Secretary of State, probably. You could fact check me, ask ChatGPT. But he had done a TED Talk, and he had talked about how kids crave discipline. And I believe that to be true as someone who spent over 21 years teaching them. They did. And that was something I always did, because I think a lot of them were surprised to be like, wait, he does comedy? because I was not that way in the classroom. I mean, I cracked a joke, but usually it was dry humor because I wanted to see if they were paying attention. So I wasn't going to I wasn't going to let them know it was coming. I was going to foreshadow anything. So like that piece of it for me, was I wanted to just sneak it in and see if they were listening. And but so I think they do crave discipline, and so I think there's something to that. So the subs that I had, I mean, that's where I think if we're going to use AI robots, let them be the subs. Let's give teachers more days off than 3 PTO. I probably wouldn't have quit teaching, to be honest, because I was doing it part-time and I kind of liked it. I've always loved it, but it was just the PTO issue. I couldn't get enough time off to go give keynotes and go tour the country and do some of these things that that was still it was all educationally related. So, so I don't know. AI robots, let's bring it in, Melania. Let's roll it in. But anyway, so I got to do these shows with Joe Gatto, and I couldn't do the Saturday show because I had a headlining spot. And, when you're in the game and somebody's giving you an opportunity to do 45 minutes and have your show, you got to take those chances too. So I was so blessed that Joe allowed me to feature for him on Friday and then Sunday. And I was trying so hard. I don't know if you've ever met anybody that, you've looked up to or you were a huge fan of, but it was going to be, I knew I had to temper myself so that I didn't, become a fangirl in the green room. And I think I did that. I think I did a good job of letting him know how much I appreciated him and his career and what it's done for me, because he's that kind of guy. If you saw any of the shows, then what you see is what you get. Like, it's an amazing human being who's so grateful for where he's at, and he's also super appreciative of how humor brings people together. He closed his shows out in that fashion, like really thanking the audience and, talking about how if he's provided some kind of, humor relief in your life, then that's a blessing that he's been given to do. And I feel the same way. Stand-up is making a group of strangers friends. And he was the nicest guy in the green room. This is how I think I got my in to, I recommended a good breakfast restaurant for him. He was talking about, staying in town, and I said, oh, you got to go to Shorty's Sunflower Cafe. And if you've never seen this place, I know what I look like, but I hate breakfast. That's not what did this. This is not a body built by, Sally's Diner. But there's this one, I never liked breakfast for whatever reason. Let's just skip to lunch. I used to work at Perkins. One of my first jobs I ever got on my own by just filling out an application was a Perkins family restaurant. It was kind of like a diner, Denny's family restaurant. And they would give me my break. I'd work 6 to 2 or 7 to 3. They would give me my break at 7:30 before the rush. And so, you could get I don't know, food half off. So I would always order from the lunch menu, fail safe, getting a burger at 7:30 in the morning. So I always wanted that. So Shorty's is cool because everything's just a little different. I actually pulled up the menu because I've known this place. I've been going to this place for 15 years, and it never misses. And the coolest part is they have a chalkboard in the room there, and then they have specials in addition to an amazing menu. So it's I always would go on Facebook because they would post a photo of the chalkboard, and that's how I would then I'd be all right, I got to start convincing Amanda we're going to go out for breakfast, or, convince my daughters to go out for breakfast. And, having an autistic daughter, it's not easy to convince her to go outside of her routine. But Sunflower was the one occasion where I could get her every once in a while. But now with their website, they actually put the specials right on the menu tab, which is great. I was looking at it now, and they're oh, today's additions, mixed berry pancakes, which, again, I'm more open to other breakfast foods. That doesn't necessarily appeal to me, but I love their pancakes. Texan eggs. I don't know what Texan eggs are, but the Texan part excites me, so I want to learn more. So that might have me say, hey, after I'm done recording, maybe I'm going to shoot over to Sunflower. Oh, never mind. Hold on. They have a brick house burger. I don't know what the brick house has to do with it. It just says burger, cheese, coleslaw, and tomato jam. Here's what I like them, though. That burger is coming from a local farm, and it's never been in the freezer. The cheese, again, probably from a dairy farm in the area. So they're very kind of farm to table. The coleslaw is what gets me because I like the mixing of that. That's the piece that's going to get me. I like when you add coleslaw to a sandwich. And then there's a Trenton pork roll grilled cheese with a sweet and hot whiskey mustard. So I don't have any desire to have pork roll. I don't know that I've ever. It's kind of like, I guess, in the bologna. In my brain, it's in the bologna category. I might have just pissed off a bunch of people, but that doesn't appeal to me. But then the sweet and hot whiskey mustard does. So like I might get that because of the sweet and hot whiskey mustard. I just got very excited. Sweet, hot whiskey. I mean, mustard. What's not to like? Those are four amazing things. That's just the additions today. I mean, if you've never gone, you got to go. I mean, the thing I used to get, like my go-to maybe 15 years ago that's still on there, the dirty egg roll, because it was basically a flour tortilla with the scrambled eggs. They're really well done, like cubed, thick, like potato sort of hash brown thing they do with like, and then it's ground beef and barbecue sauce. What? It's amazing. It's great. So like that was always like my go-to because it was just so good. All the flavors coming together. But now that I haven't had one in a while because they have so many other good things. They added a potato bomb. Listen to this. Home fries with peppers and onions, smothered with melted cheese, chopped bacon, 2 eggs, any style, served with choice of bread or toast. What? And here's the kicker. It's $13. That's insane. I mean, like, it's not like you go to a diner and you could just get a regular omelet with your plain toast that, like, I could have made in my kitchen, and you'd be paying that. So, like, they keep their prices reasonable. The staff's super cool. You got to go. Breakfast Club. They have a Cafe Cristo Royale. It's like a turkey and ham grilled cheese, but it's with, like, French toast as the bread. But here's the kicker. Side of sriracha maple sauce. And it's served with home fries. And then 2 eggs on top, any style. Go over easy. That way it breaks on the sandwich. Little fork and knife situation. A little bit of the sriracha. I don't like sriracha, but when it's mixed with the maple, right on. I'm down. Dude, amazing flying crab. I'm just going to read their menu. So just block in. If you haven't been to the Pottsgrove area, it's like North Charlotte, 663. Just past there's like a Planet Fitness up there. That's my kind of gym, right? Because, they'll feed you there. So I can get my appetizers there, and then I can mosey on over there. And I won't walk there. That would be exercise. I would drive between the two places. But yeah, and then they even have lunchy. They call them lunchy items, which, again, you had me. That's great. Crab dip grilled cheese. What? That's amazing. Sunflower Reuben. I'm down. Look at this. Taco salad. Double Juicy Lucy burger, ham and cheddar. I mean, I don't think they're only open till 2. They used to be closed on like Mondays, but now they're open like 7 days a week. I think like 7 to 2 or something like that. Got to check it out. They make their own bread in house. So if you get like their biscuits or their zucchini bread, slamming. I'm telling you, Shorty Sunflower. Maybe they'll be one of our sponsors, and I can just read an ad for them every week. That'd be great. But yeah, so I recommended that to Joe. He loved it. He went and posted about it. They were excited. They posted about it. I went there on Wednesday after the weekend, and they were so appreciative. I figured they knew who I was because I've been there so much, but they were so appreciative that he came out. I'm like, what a great. And he went to like the Collegeville Italian Bakery, which I went to Ursinus, which is nearby there. I'm not going to read you their menu. You're fine. But I love them because of their social media game. Like they do like 3 things that are really cool. They have their sign outside, which they do for like, all sorts of stuff. I mean, when Joel moved to Sunnybrook, they did one. When somebody comes to town or an athlete does something cool but this month, because it's Autism Awareness Month, they're doing a ton of autism posts with it and just fun little phrases. And I just love that energy. And then when someone like Joe comes in, they have him be the pizzola of the day, and it looks like he's taking a pizza out of the oven or something, and super cool. I know they had a great time with him too. So it's just cool. That was a lot of fun to have him in the area. Just a nice little vibe. It's just fun when everybody recognizes somebody and it's not somebody divisive. It's like not a Kardashian coming into the area or some athlete that only 30% of the population know. It's cool when it's like someone like that just has such a broad, because his audience was like anywhere from like 12 to like 75, and that, again, that's the appeal. That's, I mean, my daughters grew up, I mean, Katie was so pumped about me working with Joe because that was her favorite on the show, and we used to tell me like they're all her uncles, and so I know I got a lot of points with my daughter. So hopefully he did ask me to come open up for him in Rochester at the Carlson at the end of June. So it'll be the 25th, 6th, and 7th, 5 shows, like 1 Thursday, 2 Friday, 2 Saturday. So if you're up near Rochester, I'm going to be up there with Joe Gatto and my family because we were already going to be in the area. So it kind of worked out beautifully. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. Plus Rochester, not only does Rochester have great food, they have something called the garbage plate, which go ahead and do your research on that because that is like, it's like a perfect like blue collar town. Papa needs something to eat. Talk about they do a lot of these dishes now on like that are like one pot dishes. Garbage plate is just like it's a mix of hot and cold, which kind of makes it weird. It's like a burger or fries, but then it's a burger or a hot dog with like home fries, and then there's like macaroni salad, cold macaroni salad thrown in there. It's like it's very. Don't do it before you're gonna have a show or anything. Do it when you're ready to go into a coma after. But I'll be up there. Rochester's cool because Rochester was the first town that I joined board teachers with. So my first show with them was 2023. Yeah, I think it was like February of 2023, like right after Valentine's Day. And I did the Kodak Theater, which was like 1,700 people. It was like me, Tell Williams, Devin Siebold, and Casey Mack. And, Tell Williams is one of the reasons I even got in with board teachers. So I'm actually on a show with him. Well, it'll have been last weekend by the time you're seeing this. But yeah, so then that'll be really cool. But Rochester was special for me. And then I also played it probably the following summer. We did the Carlson with board teachers during like a summer comedy club tour. And then I've been up there once or twice with a good buddy of mine, Gasper Rendazzo. So excited to be back at the Carlson. There's some great comics up there, Todd Youngman and Greg Owens. Two great guys. Yeah, Todd is amazing. He's like does a lot of the house MC work at the Carlson, but he also goes on the road a lot. I've seen him open for people like Joe D and different like that. He's such a fan favorite and just a great guy and really funny material. And the same with Greg Owens, super funny. He's originally from Philly, has been up there. He's got just great stories to tell. Funny guy, great special on YouTube. You should check out. I think it's called Submarine Dad, but yeah, great stuff. So there's just good people up there. So I'm excited to be back up there at the end of June. They have a really cool museum up there. If you've never been, I think it's called like the Play Museum. Someone's name attached to it, obviously. They had when I was up there last, they had just put in like a toy like wing for like $10 million on like the history of toys. So you can kind of go through the timeline of toys and what people would have had for hundreds of years, which is kind of cool. And then they have video games. They got a pinball machine room, like not just to look at, but you can play them, which is cool. And just so many interactive exhibits, and it's just such a cool vibe. So if you're ever up in Rochester and you got kids or you're just a kid at heart, you should check out that Play Museum. I'm just like a Zagat's guide. Can I just be like a Zagat's guide? I'm just going to give people attractions and restaurants to go to because we're going to be traveling a lot too. So I'm excited. I'm going to some places we haven't been before. So, for example, we're going down to Orlando next week. So I guess a few days after this airs, I'm going to be making my way down to Florida for Worlds. So Varsity Spirit or Varsity Cheer puts on a World. So it's going to be like 25 different countries and, all these teams kind of competing for what's like the Super Bowl of competitive cheer. So very excited to kind of be a part of that. I'm going to go down and shoot some content, and then I'm doing a comedy show about an hour and a half east of Orlando and Melbourne, or on the I guess they call it the Space Coast. So I'll be out there for a show Friday the 24th, but I'm going to be hanging out at Worlds during the day on the morning on Friday the 24th and Saturday the 25th. And then I kind of fly back home. I have a show on Sunday I got to get back for. And then the following week I'm with board teachers, and I'm in some states I haven't been. I'm going to be in Wisconsin. Like 3 different, like Wausau. I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure it out before my TV interview with him next week. But Wausau, Sheboygan, and I think it's like EAU. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's like a French. Eau Claire, something like that. And then I'm out in Duluth, Minnesota for a day too. So that's gonna be fun. That's like the 30th through the 2nd or something like that. So you go to boardteachers.com. We actually have a pre-sale for the fall. I'm gonna be going to Texas in September with them, and then I'm gonna be up in like Binghamton, New York, and somewhere else up in New York with them in October. So I got some fall dates coming up. So there's a pre-sale right now if you want to do that. I think by the time this airs, they'll be on, I think, April 20th. Tickets go live for everybody. But yeah, so got a lot of fun places. And then when we're taking the kids to Orlando for my daughter's birthday, she doesn't know yet, so hopefully she doesn't watch this episode. And then I'm going to do some shows down there too. And then I'm going to be going up to get to Rochester with Joe. And then we're going out to Colorado as a family. My wife has a educational conference out there. So we're going to take the kids, fly out, and I'll hang around with the kids during the day and do touristy stuff. She has her conference, and then I'm looking for some spots out there. So if you know anybody in Denver comedy scene, I'll be out there, I guess, June 30th to like July 6th. So, yeah, so we're going to be in Denver for the first time as a family. So, just living the dream. So if you've ever been there, you got some recommendations for food. I'm going to start my Zaggett's Guide, and it's just going to be called Yoder's Guide to All Things Awesome. So that's going to be the plan. But yeah, a lot of travel and a lot of fun stuff going on. I'm going to be performing at a gala for cheer gym owners in September in Nashville, which is going to be really cool. I was just on a podcast called The Modus Edge, which is a cheer podcast geared specifically to gym owners and coaches and how they can kind of best organize and do all the things. And then they have a conference every year where, a lot of those gym owners can get together and network and talk about some of the great things they do and share ideas. And I'm going to get to deliver a keynote about adversity that I often do for teachers, but it's perfect for anybody who coaches or mentors youth. So I'll be doing that for them, and then I'll get to go to their gala one of the evenings as well. So I'm excited. So I get a lot of fun things coming up that, listen, I wouldn't have been able to do it if I was still teaching because it's like a Sunday to Tuesday. So I would have had to take days off, and what a missed opportunity when I could have just had an AI robot come in and run the class and keep the kids in line. Heck, he could have had like a body cam, and like I could have like popped in and gave a mini lecture. Because I'm sure I would have been free during the time that they're in class. I just would have been in Nashville. So they could have just, jetsoned me into the classroom. Rosie could have been at the helm there. And I could have just kicked out a little lesson live for them. We just have to get inventive. Education is so far back in the Stone Age that it can't adapt. And you know what? Adapt or die, my friends. Adapt or die. The robots are coming. All right, I'm done talking about the robots. Next up, flat Earth. No, I have no opinion on flat Earth. I don't believe what anybody says anymore. Birds are not real. No, my daughter has a T-shirt that my brother-in-law made because he makes T-shirts and hats and all sorts of stuff, and I think he thought it'd be funny. So I almost dressed her in it for school the other day just to see if the teachers were going to say anything. She just rolls in with the birds aren't real shirt. But no, I'm excited. So I got a lot of fun stuff going on. Hope you have a lot of fun stuff going on. I'm going to have some fun guests coming up. Some former students and like baseball players. That was cool at the Gatto shows because there was such a wide range. I had former students at almost every show. Because at one point I was like, as I'm talking about being a teacher, I was having them guess what I taught. And somebody in the far back just yelled out, Spanish and Latin. And I was like, oh, must have been one of my Spanish students. So I was like, all right, speak Spanish. And I asked a question. I was like, ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? And she yelled, aquí. And I was like, all right, it's right, but it's wrong. Like, there's no library here, okay? Like, this is a comedy club. But yeah, so it's just a lot of fun to see them. And I got a few photos with some of them after. Some of them that, like, I wasn't super close with. Like, I used to do elementary. So I was like the fun uncle that rolled in for like 45 minutes, but I was in like three or four different buildings. So like, and then some of it was post-COVID. So you also had the mask. So like, not only are they now grown up, like I think she was a junior and I had her in 6th grade. So it was like 5 years ago. And those are 5 important years in terms of like development. So like I wouldn't have recognized her. And then I think when she said her name, I recalled the name from like a roster and a foggy memory. But it's so hard when you roll in, you got like 30 kids for 45 minutes. You're trying to like, do something with them, have fun. It's hard to kind of get that one-on-one time. Like when I just taught, high school and middle school, I had the same kids every day. So, you kind of get that time to get to know them as they come into the class or leave the class or just, being in the building all day. You have these moments where you get to know them where, if I would do an activity or coach or have a homeroom, because that's actually how where I'm recording these episodes is from one of my students who I didn't have academically, but I had and homeroom. So it's like, you never know the connections you're going to make. And so it's a lot of fun to have these students come by, and I'm proud that I can have them be proud to be in the room and see me doing comedy. And, I said before, comedy's for everybody. So it's, it's one of those things where it's, when it can bring people together like that, it's fun. I like that piece of it. I like that I'm clean enough. I'm not going to say I can be church clean, but I can also be, club clean, a little PG-13, a little sprinkle of some pizzazz. Because I think the surprise effect of it, I'm not going to go full Bob Saget, you know what I'm saying? But I have some thoughts. I have some jokes. I'd usually give them to somebody else. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, especially with the comedy class. We were talking a little bit of that when Joel was here. Well, we just had the graduation show last week. And these 14 people, I'm always amazed with, these are people that are coming in that just said, hey, wouldn't it be great if I got over this fear and like I want to make people laugh and I want to get up on stage and, even if they're afraid to do it, this class was interesting. We ended up increasing our cap. Usually I cap it at 12. We increased it to 14 because there were a couple that wanted to be together and I just had the ones. So we like, all right, let's just run it with 14. I've seen some schools, and I work for a comedy school, where we've done 15. So I know it can be done, but generally we don't do, even in that scenario, when we have like the group classes, we have extra classes. So it never goes higher than 12. And I know why now, because we were there like 3.5 hours every week instead of the typical 2.5, 3, just because you get into it, you're trying to give feedback. Each week they're performing a little bit more. So even if let's say I give 14 people 3 minutes for easy math, there's almost 45 minutes. It's like 42 minutes of them just being on stage. But then if I give everybody 5 minutes of feedback, well, there's 70 minutes. So now all of a sudden we're already almost at 2 hours. And then you also mix in that in the beginning, we usually do a debrief of the week before where I ask them how their week's going. Did you go to any mics? Did you watch any comedy? Did you do your homework? Some of those things. So we kind of catch up for a little bit. And then some weeks I have like guests come in, like, Joel's usually there with me a lot of the times when he can. And he comes in one week and tells us his story. I always have a guest comedian come in because, I can't make up for the fact that I don't have decades of experience. So I also want somebody with a completely different perspective than me to be part of it, because it also makes me better, because then I get to kind of see that. When I used to coach baseball, that was my favorite thing, was working with the other coaches, because I got to see what their tendencies were. I got to learn a lot from them. We got to combine ideas. So it just makes it for a really cool, creative environment. So this past class, Paul Spratt came with me, who I really enjoy. He's a guy from Scranton that I met through doing like Don't Tell comedy shows with him, and very funny. What I love about him is like he's just such a pro with it. Like he'll go in on a premise and he's not afraid to like take the time to find it. Where I was still kind of pandering as like a young comic, you just want everybody to laugh at you all the time. And so I watched a clip from Hot Breath, which is, if you're into comedy, it's like a really cool podcast where the guy really gets into the X's and O's of becoming a comedian and interviews comedians who everybody adores and thinks the world of, and has them kind of give their take. And I think he had like Mike Winfried on, and he had said that comics say they don't bomb, they're lying to you, because bombing doesn't just mean city. Bombing for him also meant when he was too afraid to try something new because he just wanted to kill the room. And I could relate to that, because like, I feel like early on, I always felt like I was auditioning, like every open mic, every whatever, I treated like bottom of the ninth, game 7. And it took me a while to start realizing, yeah, you got to kind of mix some stuff in and if it doesn't work, that doesn't mean you're not worthy. It doesn't mean you're an imposter. I was opening up, I did a mic last night that I host in Lansdale at Well Crafted, like every third Thursday of the month. And I opened the show just, prepping everybody because it's a lot of people that didn't know comedy was happening and just civilians, as we call them. And I just said, this is the chance for people to work stuff out. We're trying new things. And, you got to be willing to do that. You got to be willing to get up there and, say some things, be vulnerable. Mike Birbiglia was a guy that says, you kind of got to say the stuff that you thought you should never tell anyone. You got to be super vulnerable. You got to figure out what's a story only you can tell. And be original, and I think, Paul was somebody who just never pandered, and I really enjoy, so he helped put the class as well. So yeah, we had a great show. It was last Wednesday, 200 tickets sold. That was I think our biggest graduating class audience. We always floated around like 120, 125, but these 14 people brought it, and these 14 people were like they were, a lot of them had done open mics. Some of them were, and the ones who hadn't, there were like 2 of them that were willing to do the open mics throughout the course, which sometimes people are too afraid. They want to stay in the vacuum. They want to stay in the safety net. And, and that's fine, until they get that grad show. But then they experience that grad show. They hear all these people laughing. And the grad show audience is honest. They're an honest audience always, even though it's different people every time. I've gotten a really good sense of how things are going to go. So, as they're building their set and I'm giving my feedback, and I always have them record the feedback so that they're not just playing it from their memory, but they keep their audio recorder on so they can kind of listen back. And I'll say this, there was one time, this one I was super proud of, that I told the one guy, I'm like, oh, dude, you don't tell any more jokes because you're going to get an applause break after that one. And true to form, he did as soon as he did the bit. And it was fun. It was fun to watch. It was cool to see these people conquer fears. It was cool to see the hard work and the progress over just 6 short weeks. And they challenge each other. So even the ones who might want to slack or have a lot of other things going on in their life, the class sort of raises the bar for everybody, and they become like this little family in just 6 weeks. And there's like this email chain going back and forth. After I sent out like the congratulations email after the grad show, they're all responding back, and they're like quoting each other's jokes and just being super nice and trying to give each other their phone numbers and match up. And so it's cool to watch. We actually had a ton of alumni in the audience this time too, so that was a lot of fun. Because that's what we're trying to do. That's why Joel gave me the space to do that. Was trying to like build community. So that was the goal, and we did it, and it was super cool. So we have another class starting in May, starts like second Wednesday of May, runs through the very beginning of June. And that'll be a great class. And then we have another one in August. We kind of take the middle part off. And then, we have one running every quarter. So if you're anywhere near Pottstown, Pennsylvania, and if you're not near Pottstown, I'm actually running a virtual one through a school that I'm the director of operations for in New York City called the American Comedy Institute. I'm running a virtual one starting mid-May. It's like you get 2 private sessions with me on Zoom, 3 group classes on Zoom, and then like a live YouTube show at the end. So it's all done virtually. You can be in your house the whole time, and that way, wherever you're from, you can be a part of it. That was something that was a product of the pandemic, and Steve Rosenfield, who's the founder of the American Comedy Institute for the last 36 years, which is insane. People like Gaffigan, Jess Kirsten, Hannah Gadsby. All these amazing comics that Michelle Buteau, when they first started, they, met with him or took a workshop or did, little tune-up sessions. And so, he's been trusted by some of the greats. And, even though he was never a comedian himself, he's such a wordsmith, and he's just so savvy. So I've been lucky enough to study under him. Obviously, I've read his book, and so now I'm starting to teach there, which there's no higher honor than he doesn't, because it's usually only him teaching the classes. So to get a nod from someone like him and to have things like Joel said about me last week. Like, this is the this is the adoration and respect and just appreciation I was not getting as a teacher in public school. I just wasn't. Had I been getting the same adoration I'm getting right now from what I'm doing with the comedy schools and all of this, I never would have left. But like a pension's not enough to keep me in a job that I feel underappreciated in. So, as I've said, bring on the robots. Well, that's it for this week, guys. I've had a blast. Hopefully you found some good menu items. Hit up Shorty's Sunflower Cafe. You want to join the comedy school, come on by. If you're a cheer parent, hey, maybe I'll see you down at Worlds next week. But I hope to see you next week. Every Tuesday, new episode. Check it out. Do all the things. Share, like, subscribe. And I'll see you next time.